Yo, 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 yo. What's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads out there? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
Fantastic. I'm good. I'm great.
That's awesome. Hey, everybody out in the world. Hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show. Thank you for listening out there. Mrs. Weedman, we've had a crazy week this week.
It's been a little nutty.
Yeah. But I have some news, and everyone out in the world is this is the announcement that I've been waiting to tell everybody about. Mr. Weedman has started a new segment of the Weedman 420 Chronicles podcast, and it is with a very dear good friend of ours of the show, and it's Big Earl West. If you Earl 217, you've heard me mention about him hundreds of times. He's been a great coach to me and growing. So we are starting a segment once a month called the Weedman 420 Chronicles Grow Hour with Big Earl and Mr. Weedman. Mrs. Weedman, I didn't leave you.
I know you didn't. That's good.
I'm still here.
I'd be crying.
I didn't leave you for Big Earl.
Thanks, Big Earl.
We're still doing the show every week.
Place.
Everybody out in the world, Mr. and Mrs. Weedman, are still doing the show every week.
Yeah.
She's not even jealous.
I might have had my ear to the door. What are they talking about? What are they laughing about?
So super excited to do this Grow Hour sesh with a good coach of mine. Hopefully we answer questions and we put on some good shows for everybody and get some good knowledge out there and educate. I'm looking forward to this because I'm going to get better at growing and home grow, and we're going to be talking about home grow. We're going to be talking about big grows, craft grows, just basically because Big Earl has done it all. We're going to talk about outside growing. We have so many ideas. We're going to have some great guests on the show, breeders. We're going to have pheno hunters. We're going to have growers on, and it's going to be an exciting show. So we're starting off once a month. Eventually it might be 2 or 3 or 4 times a month, depending on what kind of guests we have on and stuff like that. But we're super stoked about doing this and having another segment of the show for everybody out there in the world to listen to, especially if you want to become a grower. And you want to become a home grower, but even if you don't, and you want to learn how to just learn about it, it's gonna be a lot of fun. So stay tuned. Wes and I, Big Earl and I, just recorded the episode, and we're gonna release it probably next week, later this week, or early next week. So super stoked, everybody. Stay tuned for more. We also got some good news, didn't we?
Yeah,
news?
We did. So 8 decades, I think you all know now that we've got 8 decades, right? And it's been such a work in progress for months now. But we're having this custom smoking set. And if you follow us on social media, you may have seen that we posted coming soon post this week on social media. And yes, they are coming soon. They still have not shipped. We had to do yet one more revision on something. It's just the little details, and I'm a stickler for little details.
It's all about the details.
I'm probably making our manufacturer maybe a little crazy, but he's working with me. It's been good. So a lot to learn, I will tell you, in creating a product.
2 years in the making.
Yeah. Between trademarking, the legalities, the banking, the production, manufacturing, design, it's quite a bit. And Mr. Weedman and I both have jobs that keep us busy outside of our podcast and outside of our 8 decades. And so there's just a few sticks in the fire, It's been a little crazy, but it's good. I like it. I like crazy. I work well in crazy. So
I don't like crazy.
We're just happy that I really think the products are going to ship next week. So we should have them soon. Coming soon.
For all you out there that have never started a business or have started a business or interested in starting a business in your life, this is the trials and tribulations of starting a business. And
nothing is on your time.
Nothing is easy.
Like if I had the capability, like I thought in the beginning, that I could just go join this incubator engineering club and I could get on a computer and teach myself CAD and create the drawings and create my product and just simply walk over to a manufacturer and get this shit done. That's in my brain. It doesn't work that way. And part of the problem is that when you're creative person and you have these things in your mind, but you don't have the tools to get them onto paper. That's my problem. So I think that I could have expedited the process if I knew how to do some of these things, but we have to work with all these different people. So it's all, coordinating schedules and coordinating calls and then getting on with this person and that person just to make these little tweaks and revisions. It takes, Zoom calls with all these different people and coordinating around the world at different times. Anyway, it's
you created
a lot.
You created a product. You created a
it's
product,
exciting.
A line of not just one item. There was many.
It's a brand.
But you created this line of our brand, and there's not just one. It's not just one item. There is multiple items in this tray set.
Yes.
So you're talking about the tray. You're talking about the tool set, the holder for the tool set. You're also talking about the ashtray, the inside of the ashtray, and
there's just parts to each.
Right.
Thing. Yes.
So it's taking a lot. It wasn't easy.
No.
It wasn't at all.
No.
Right.
It wasn't necessarily hard. It's just being diligent and not giving up on it.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to. None of it was really hard. It's finding the right people that you can work with and then staying on them to get each step of the process completed. And if you step back at all, they will too. So you have to keep leading the train and leading it and leading it. And you just have to keep the momentum going, and it gets frustrating. I can't say I ever wanted to stop doing it. I just wanted things to happen fast. Like nothing happens fast enough. But I think we can all complain about that with a lot of things that we're trying to do.
Very true.
Anyway, here we are. We started this whole plan in 2020, and we're going to be wrapping up 2022 by the time we physically have these things. But we will have them. We will.
I'm so
and
excited.
I hope that you guys all enjoy them.
Yeah,
So-
I'm excited. Watching the process and watching everything we've gone through and you've gone through, especially because you've been leading the charge on this. So, yeah, some good news because we had people reach out to us I had a bunch of people reach out to us about because we've been posting some of the samples that we got. And
once we have a better timeline on when the products will arrive, we will probably pre-launch them and let people start pre-ordering, and then we'll ship as soon as they come in. So just stay tuned, watch our social media, and we'll keep the updates coming.
Now that you let your heart out, ready to smoke and feel better?
I am.
All right, we're smoking. You got it over the 8 Decades steamroll over there. We're smoking Orange Juana by Rhythm, and this was part of the Cannabis Cup, High Times Cannabis Cup, one of the strains that I got in the bag. So this is a CBD THC ratio, and it has 17% THCA, 13% CBDA, and then a little bit of THC and a little bit of CBD. It has myrcene as terpenes and carotene, and it is a hybrid, of course, of orange clementine and marijuana. Is basically rich in CBD, rich in THC. The flavor and the smell, Mrs. Weedman, smell that.
Oh, the flavor! I know the smell is amazing.
Smell is like just this one smells like an orange whip. Orange whip,
Yeah.
orange whip, orange whip. 3 orange whips.
It smells very sweet
Yes.
and orangey. I can't say the taste. I don't know. I think my palate is screwed up. It's kind of disappointing. I have not been
Tasting stuff lately.
I have not been impressing myself lately.
My go-to taster right here.
I think Mr. Weedman put the pressure on me to have this amazing palate, and now all of a sudden it's failing me.
Every time I put you under pressure.
I know. I don't like, well, I shouldn't say I don't like pressure. I don't mind pressure.
Ooh, that was a very large hit.
Good luck.
Tell you what, though, this is pretty good. Not my favorite out of all the strains. I did a video on the last strain I did, and that was by Revolution, and that was that one tastes like Orange Julius. That was my favorite so far of all the strains. I don't remember the name of it, unfortunately, but it was another orange one too. But that one was very good. I think that was my favorite so far. Them and Bedford Grow are my 2 faves, and I would say this Revolution is number 3. So out of all the ones I've done, good stuff though so far. That was the 8th strain I smoked, so I got 4 left. Oh,
you're pretty good.
Yeah.
I have 7 vape cartridges, and I think I have judged 3 of them. But because I only had 7, and what do we have till September 4th? I only had 7 to test or judge, and so I've been using
You've been taking your time.
I use them. Yeah, I take my time because I've got a pen over by my computer, so I take a hit here and there, and then I turn around and the Zenko is sitting there. I'm like, ooh, I'll have a little puff there. And then we come down and we smoke. So
by the way,
I
speaking
end
of
up mixing a
Zenko,
lot.
Sorry to interrupt. Did they blow up or
They
what?
blew up. Pretty
Holy
cool.
shit.
Pretty cool.
What, they get 17 views in like a week?
17 million.
Million, I'm sorry. They got 17 million views in like a week, but in one day they got like 9.4
Crazy.
million views. They blew up. Good for them.
Yeah.
So happy for them. Love their gizmo. We smoke it a lot, use it a lot. Paul, Wendy, congratulations on that. Go ahead, Ms. Weedman. Sorry.
That's all right.
You said Zenko, and I didn't want to forget that. So congratulations on that.
Super cool for them. But yeah, so I tend to, like, as the evening goes on, I may have mixed 2 or 3 different strains by smoking different things. So I've been trying to focus when I judge on just having a particular strain. So it's taking me more than 1 or 2 tries to make that happen. So I still have, what did I say? I judged 3 of them?
3, yeah.
So I still have 4 more to
That's
judge.
not bad,
I'm
though.
on my 4th. I think I have 4 pens open. I lost one of them.
Well, but you already judged that one. That wasn't
Yeah.
so bad. So, you ready to get the show started?
Yep, let's do it.
All right. We've talked about Delta 8 and Delta 10 before, but here's some more information about the difference between the two if you are using either one or both. So just to give you some more info on it, Delta 8 versus Delta 10, what's the difference? One is more potent than the other, right? Well, yes, for most people, although there are many factors that affect your THC experience. The total amount of cannabinoids and terpene in each strain varies greatly, as does your own tolerance level to these substances, which changes over time. And don't forget about the way it was grown. Indoor versus outdoor hydro versus soil-grown plants can have a significant effect on potency too. So what should you look for and want to know whether or not the particular product contains Delta 8 or Delta 10 depends on the type of extract being used. For people who want to feel euphoric high, Delta 8 THC be the better option, although the difference between Delta 8 and Delta 10 is not very big and both provide strong effects. However, if you're trying to avoid the psychoactive effects of cannabis altogether, then you might want to consider checking the lab reports on the products you are looking at buying. If it says THCA on the label, that means it's written Delta 9 THCA. If the label says THC, it is more likely to be Delta 8 THC. Lab reports for cannabis products are widely available online, so just be careful what you're buying and make sure that you can see some kind of lab report. So, what is Delta 8? Delta 8 is a cannabinoid that provides a calming euphoric effect without intense feelings of paranoia and anxiety. Delta 8 THC is derived from cannabis plants and interacts with the CB1 receptors in your brain. Delta 10 THC has been found to be less potent than Delta 8 THC while still providing you that psychoactive component you're used to with THC. Delta 10 THC is less popular in states where medical cannabis is legal, but the Delta 8 THC seems to be preferred over all other cannabinoids. Cannabinoids interacts with CB1 receptors located in your brainstem and cerebral cortex. Delta 8 THC has been known to provide feelings of relaxation while still not leading to super intense psychoactive and paranoid feelings. Delta 10 THC is legal in some states. Delta 8 THC is more popular than Delta 10 THC due to its milder effects and popularity with dispensaries across the country. What is Delta 10 THC? Delta 10 THC is a cannabinoid that helps relieve stress and tension while not causing you to get intense feelings of paranoia, anxiety, or psychoactive effects. Delta 10 THC is commonly used in states where medical cannabis isn't legal. Delta 10 THC has been known to provide an uplifting and relaxing effects that doesn't cause intense emotions of paranoia or anxiety. Delta 10 THC has researched for use as a medication because of its mild effects while also having the ability to relieve stress and help you feel relaxed. What is the difference between Delta 8 and Delta 10? Both Delta 8 THC and Delta 10 THC have been known to provide a slight high with calming effects that may not be as intense as the psychoactive effects of other cannabinoids. People use Delta 8 THC and Delta 10 THC as a medication or recreational depending on the state they live in. 10 THC has been found to be less potent than Delta 8 while still providing you with the psychoactive component you're used to with THC. Many people find Delta 10 preferred because it's a little bit less. Where can you get Delta 8 and Delta 10? Make sure you're buying it from... I don't really see it in dispensaries here in Illinois, but I would definitely make sure you're if you purchase online or you go to a head shop, make sure you're looking at like where it's from. You know, if it's grown from a local grower, see if they have any kind of lab reports on it. You want to get tested products, so make sure when you're buying it, you look around and you look for tested results. Why is Delta 8 more potent than Delta 10? Delta 8 THC has been found to be more potent than Delta 10 because of the cannabinoid ratios. The potency of Delta 8 THC is based on the CBN content, which is another cannabinoid that provides psychoactive effects. It's also, we all know CBN kind of puts you sleep time. Delta 8 THC lasts longer than most other cannabinoids due to the CBN content. CBN has been found to be a sedative effects and stronger than other cannabinoids. CBN helps you relax, and you find it more in Delta 8. That might be the reason why it's such a relaxing effect. Couch lock, just relaxation, The endocannabinoid system affects Delta 8 and Delta 10 differently. Delta 8 and Delta 10 THC can affect the cannabinoid receptors in your body. THC produces Delta 8 and Delta 10 THC affects the endocannabinoid system just like other cannabinoids, which is why you may feel more relaxed after using the compounds. The difference between the two is one is much stronger than the other and has a bigger effect on the CB1 and CB2 receptors. Delta 8 THC with CBD oil can help you relax. Delta 8 or Delta 10 is which one's better for pain? Kind of both, which is kind of cool. Some manufacturers add CBD oil to the Delta 8 so consumers can enjoy a relaxing experience too. So remember that. Can Delta 8 or Delta 10 make you fail a drug test? Both can show up on a drug test, which means that you may fail your urine or blood test if you're consuming too much of these compounds. Remember that consuming products that only contain CBD oil won't show up on most tests, but because it's THC, it's not just CBD, it's THC, and that's the compound they look for when you're piss testing, when you piss hot. So, which is safer? Delta 10 is often considered to be safer than Delta 8 THC because of its way it affects CB1 and CB2 receptors in your brain. Delta 10 has been found to reduce stress, which can be helpful if you're suffering from anxiety or depression. The effects of Delta 8 THC last longer, but also can come with some safety concerns. Cannabis oil affects your judgment and coordination, which can increase the risk of accidents while you're using Delta 8. So remember that. So good stuff. That was just more information. I mean, I've talked about both cannabinoids before, but it's just good to always know more, especially if you're using it out there, right?
Yep.
Luxury.
Yeah.
Fashion.
Yeah.
Cannabis.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
They go hand in hand.
Hand in hand.
Yeah, this is a fun article. The surprising similarities between luxury fashion and the cannabis business. I recently read The House of Gucci, a sensational story of murder, madness, glamour, and greed. It's the nonfiction book that the 2021 film is based on. While I came for the fashion and high-stakes love affairs, I stayed for the complex business case study that mirrors what I see in the long-running cannabis companies. Here are the striking similarities. The House of Gucci's plot revolves around Maurizio Gucci and his relationship with Patrizia Reggiani. The two met at a party, and Patrizia is starstruck by Maurizio and his family's legacy. At the time, the company was owned and operated by Maurizio's father and uncles, who inherited the business from their father, and later it was passed down to their respective heirs. But mixing business and family gets thorny for the Guccis. Multi-generational dynamics like this often create complicated relationships for companies. This was the reality for several everyday cannabis businesses started by siblings or close friends when California first legalized medical cannabis. Even 10 years ago, these operations were not considered a viable investment. Similar to fashion back at the turn of the 20th century when houses started to emerge. Instead, these small businesses were funded and bootstrapped by the founders or friends and family. Relationships and terms were often loosely defined. Hiring decisions were frequently based on who knew who, not who knew what.
Who knew who?
Who knew who? As California medical markets evolved into adult use, increased competition and feuds over which direction a company should take pressured relationships and fractured friendships. Many early companies could have been great if they had not been derailed by relationships that couldn't separate family ties from business transactions. One could simply dig in on some of these legacy companies to find mountains of publicly filed lawsuits between founders, some of which include bold and nefarious claims, especially in California. Another striking similarity between fashion and cannabis are the characters at the center of the operation. Several famous design houses were founded by iconic and eccentric personalities who became synonymous with their brands. Karl Lagerfeld, Oleg Cassini, Coco Chanel. These artists blended craftsmanship and flair. Similarly, cannabis cultivators have a deep passion for their work. The most talented will breed unique strains and terpene profiles and then labor over the right way to trim and cure their harvest. Problematically, deep creatives like these often pay little attention to fiduciary details prior to growth. In addition, they have trouble reconciling how to preserve quality while increasing volume. This becomes an issue when founders are beholden to investors who want to increase revenue and market share. When Gucci had an issue with their balance sheet, they focused on bolstering their management team. Domenico Del Sole brought his business and legal prowess to steer the company from bankruptcy into growth mode. His partnership and belief in the young but talented Tom Ford injected new life into the old brand, expanding the commercial product line and attracting millions of new customers. Unfortunately, the cannabis industry is young, and companies have a hard time finding a ringer. Instead, founders are often pushed out, and talent is brought in from other industries. In my business, we have seen management teams and directors who have come into these companies from traditional firms such as Ford, Pepsi, Constellation, etc. We love seeing teams that with that combination of traditional and analog business experience paired with talent and vision. In the 1990s, fashion houses started to eye China and other Asian countries as viable markets and began diversifying their original lines to appeal to younger customers. To finance those expansion opportunities, several designer brands went public. While some thrived, other fashion companies failed to deliver on their promises. Donna Karan, the designer known for female fashion minimalism, had a highly anticipated IPO, and shares shot up from an initial price of $4 to $24 on the first day of trading.
Damn.
However, expansion plans stalled and stock prices plummeted. This trend would be repeated with other companies. Over the past couple of years, cannabis companies have also had to deal with the aftermath of overhyped IPOs that just couldn't deliver results in emerging markets. Some of these companies have had to divest assets. Some are tied up in ongoing litigation, and others have been consolidated into even larger companies. More likely, the company's valuation is only a fraction of what it was at its initial public offering. Just as in fashion, consolidations will continue to occur as new markets open, and winners and losers ultimately emerge. Today, we have mega fashion houses like LVMH, which picked up Donna Karan and owns other well-known fashion brands such as Christian Dior, Berluti, and Tiffany's. Today, Gucci is owned by French luxury group Kering, which has a stable of other powerhouse brands such as Balenciaga, Yves Saint Laurent, and Bottega Veneta. Cannabis companies are also starting to build deeper benches and better market share through M&A activity. Recently, Cresco Labs announced that it would acquire Columbia Care for $2 billion. I know. When the deal is finalized, it will create one of the largest operations in U.S. cannabis industry. In October, Trulieve closed a deal with Harvest Health and Recreation that gave the company over 149 retail outlets in over 11 states. While consolidation is often painful for businesses, it's good for industries. They help to establish economies of scale that drive down the cost of goods and services and make the marketplace more competitive, and therefore affordable for consumers. The fact that cannabis and fashion brands have several overlapping challenges and opportunities should come as no surprise to people. Both are cultural juggernauts and have far-reaching influence over consumers. Both are connected to how people view themselves and their lifestyle, and cannabis brands are also often compared to fashion brands. In 2017, a New York Times article called Bebo, the Hermès of Cannabis. Interestingly, Bebo's co-founders are both seeped in the world of fashion. Clement Kwan worked for Theory and Dolce & Gabbana. Scott Campbell was and still is a tattoo artist who has collaborated with designers like Marc Jacobs. Brett Heyman brought her keen eye for unique and notable accessories from her brand Eddie Parker into the cannabis accessory space with the launch of Flower by Eddie Parker. Heyman, who spent 2 decades in luxury fashion, says it's natural that cannabis and fashion would have similarities. Heyman believes there is the possibility of luxury cannabis accessories, just like there is for high-end barware that shows off individual tastes and personalities. She also believes that as brands mature, they will start to move toward creating more holistic and thoughtful product lines that work together, much like fashion collections. Indeed, fashion has many lessons to learn on how to position products and build brands that resonate with consumers. As Coco Chanel once said, in order to be irreplaceable, one must always be different.
I wonder if someone's gonna be murdered one day in fashion cannabis, like there was. Who got murdered? Who was?
Oh, you're thinking of Versace.
Versace. Someone's gonna get murdered one day for fashion cannabis.
What do you? You're high.
Very. I told you I took a really big fucking hit, and I was drinking that tea I made too. I posted it. I drank that tea all day today. I had it in my mug all day, just sipping on it. Oh gosh,
I haven't tried it yet.
There's no head high.
No?
It's just complete. Just like my body was so relaxed, like I was like moving in slow motion all day, and I watered it down a little bit too, just so it wasn't so strong, and it was just lovely being out on the road all day and just drinking that tea and just clear as a bird, but just no
Your
pain.
body was super
mush,
mellow.
Mush. Cold water hash. I got to see some cold water hash being made last week, and a friend of mine, Broccoli Rob, took me in his little place, and he was making cold water hash, and then he turned that cold water hash into live rosin, and he takes that cold water hash and he presses it, and you get this delicious gooiness of just it made me so happy, and the smell, and watching him work it was impressive. Like you know how you braid your hair? Mm-hmm. He's a very good braider. He could probably braid your hair. Broccoli Rob, man.
What was he braiding?
He was braiding the rosin, the hash rosin. You got to braid it, you got to work it, knead it like you're kneading dough.
Really?
You would actually love to watch this process.
What?
Yes. I'll have to see if Broccoli Rob will send a video to you so you can see how he does it. It's absolutely fabulous. I'll send him this point of the podcast so he knows. I'm telling you, kneading like
cool.
like a fine dough bread maker, but this is a hash maker, taking it and watching the process being made. And I just couldn't. I just cannot wait to experience it because I don't have a med card for Ohio, so I couldn't buy any of it to try it. So I cannot wait though because he's an artiste. Cold water hash, the powerful cannabis resin. So, hash or hashish has been around for centuries. I love hash. Hash is made from resin taken from a mature female cannabis plant. Cannabis resin is a sticky substance akin to tree sap produced by the resin glands. These ripe resin glands or trichomes contain all the aromatic terpenes and cannabinoids that facilitate your enjoyment of the therapeutic use of cannabis. Collecting this resin and compressing it into hashish is a centuries-old tradition in places like Morocco and India. Today, modern hash making techniques have evolved, let's just say, and it's different. Cannabis connoisseurs enjoy its flavor and potency. The effects of hash are much stronger than smoking cannabis flower, as the concentration of cannabis is much greater. Cold water hash extraction. To make hash, the sticky resinous trichomes are separated from the plant using a variety of methods. Dry sifting separates the trichome glands by filtering them through a series of screens. After repeated sifting and collecting of the resin, also known as keef, it's ready to enjoy. Cold water hash, also known as ice water, solventless, or bubble hash, uses ice and water to knock the trichomes free from the plant. As the ice water chills the plant material, the trichomes, which are not water soluble, become brittle and snap off. The resin is filtered from the water. When dry, it can be cured and smoked. This is water hash. The cold water hash making method was popularized in the 1990s, largely due to the famed hash maker Mila Jensen, aka the Hash Queen, who designed a line of pollinator bags for straining ice water hash. In recent years, commercially extracted hash using solvents like butane has pushed aside water hash on dispensary shelves. However, water hash makers have refined their methods, and top-quality water hash is now being sold as solventless wax, reflecting the consumer's demand for chemical-free cannabis products. What are the steps in making cold water hash? There's several ways to do it. Plant material, which can include leaf, trim, buds, and shake, is immersed in ice water, chilled water, and the plant material are gently agitated. Trichome heads freeze and break off from the plant. Resin-filled trichome sinks, separating from the plant matter. Water is filtered and the resin collected. Resin is carefully dried and pressed. The end results are aromatic water hash with no solvents. It smells unbelievable. Like I would never get tired of that smell. You know how you don't get tired of certain candles or certain perfumes?
Right.
I wouldn't get tired of that smell. So what are the benefits of cold water hash extraction? It's free of solvents and chemicals. It's safe to make. It's full spectrum, and it's versatile. So, final. Many people are delighted by the unique full spectrum experience of potent natural hash. If you're new to consuming cannabis in hash form, ask your local bud tender or for ice water or solventless hash, or try making your own. A note for the novice consumer. The effects of hash, which is a potent cannabis concentrate, are much stronger than smoking cannabis flower. Go low and slow, just like edibles, and enjoy your hash experience as a responsible cannabis consumer. Pretty cool. It was beautiful. The smell. How the industry right now, we've talked about this before, in Illinois especially, everybody wants just the high THC potency stuff. Give me the highest. Give me that 35, 40%. Man, I want to get baked. Yeah. How can we change that? We've talked about that before.
Yes. Last week, I think I did an article about getting away from the sativa indica, right?
Yep.
And we also touched on the whole, like, this big focus on THC, like that's the only thing that matters. Well, this article is how the cannabis industry can shift its focus away from THC potency. Cannabis consumers around the world, by and large, shop based on one number, THC percentage. Cannabis flower doesn't test, if that flower doesn't test above 20%, it often doesn't make it on the shelf, and shoppers many times will pay a premium for flower that tests above 25% THC. Despite the industry claiming it is educating consumers and bud tenders alike on the benefits of terpene and minor cannabinoids, the majority of cannabis consumers see potency as the number one indicator of quality and value. But strictly relying on THC or CBD content ignores many other factors that can affect a consumer's experience, industry insiders say. The legal cannabis system is driving that high THC percentage and completely ignoring everything else, said Kim Stuck, founder of cannabis consultancy Allay Consulting, which has an office in Portland, Oregon. Again. Where's it gone?
Exactly.
Oregon. Which one is it?
Oregon.
According to June data from Canadian cannabis retail data tracker Hi-Fire, THC potency is still a top purchase consideration in Canada, wrote Tammy Chen, an analyst with the Bank of Montreal. This also appears to be true across the pond. Currently in Europe, potency is synonymous with quality, said Nick Pateras, managing director of Materia, which has a cannabis production facility in Malta and a medical cannabis distribution license in Germany. There is a direct correlation between the THC percentage of a product and its sales performance. To solve this problem, Pateras said companies need to do a better job of explaining how quality goes beyond just THC and why other factors are important in purchasing decisions. When Kim Stuck walks into a cannabis retailer and asks for flower that's, for example, 15 to 20% THC, high in terpene limonene, and low in terpene pinene, the bud tender often doesn't know what to say. They're straight up shocked by that, she said. Most of the time, they don't even know what terpenes are in the flower. They'll just say, it's up to 30% THC, and it's really bomb. She said, that's not what I'm asking for, though. She likes to roll a joint and sit on her patio for an hour and enjoy the entire experience. She doesn't like to do that with flower that's 30% THC. It's too strong.
That's what I've been saying. I've said that so many times.
Consumers are typically given 3 choices of flower when they speak with a bud tender: sativa, indica, or hybrid. Stuck said the oversimplification is lazy marketing and doesn't do enough to communicate what's in the plant. The only thing a consumer knows is it has the highest THC, and that must be the best, she added. Many people are still stuck in the world of the stronger, the better. But people who are new to cannabis or don't have much of a THC tolerance are unlikely to have a good experience if they consume too much high-potency cannabis. The consumer isn't educated on any of this, she added. Even if they are, they walk into dispensaries and talk to bud tenders that don't know what they're doing. That's an issue. Bud tenders, like many retail employees, are often difficult to retain, and turnover is common in the industry. A recent report from Seattle-based Headset, a cannabis industry data and analytics company, found that in both the U.S. and Canada, 55% of bud tenders who work at any point over the previous 12 months had departed by the end of that time period. So putting too much emphasis on them as the first line of education is a problem, Stuck said. We're almost relying on our bud tenders like we would a pharmacist, she added. It's not just that. The bud tenders often aren't educated, Stuck said. A lot of state regulations don't require testing for minor cannabinoids and terpenes, she noted, so the information is just not available. Regulators are more concerned with health and safety. Part of the issue is that cannabis businesses are reacting to what their customers want. That's according to Kyle Sherman, CEO of Denver-based FlowHub, a cannabis software company serving cannabis retailers. The industry reacts to consumer demand, Sherman said. Up until recently, consumers assumed that higher THC percentages meant they would get a more full experience out of the product. Tracking consumer purchasing data shows that higher potency products are more attractive to customers, so growers are trying to produce more of that. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, Sherman said. In reality, what leads to a good experience is much more sophisticated than just high potency, he added. As a consumer himself, Sherman said he prefers smoking flower with a relatively lower THC potency and a higher terpene profile. You get a really rich, comfortable, non-paranoid high, he said. That's amazing. Sherman was recently visiting retail clients in Portland, Oregon, and said that some offer very clear labeling with terpene percentages along with data on THC and CBD potency. So you can look at it that way and say, I want the 4% terps with the 17% THC and the 2% CBD, he said. That's going to be an interesting high.
That's going to be amazing high.
Sherman said his clients in Colorado don't offer much more than the strain name and THC percentage. I think what's happened in this particular market in Oregon is that you just have a more discerning buyer that actually cares about flower, he added. An infused cannabis product maker, at infused cannabis product maker Chiba Chews, Chief Marketing Officer Eric Leslie said the Denver-based company is trying to diversify its products to use the entourage effect. In other words, the experience generated by different cannabinoids working in concert with other cannabinoids and terpenes. THC potency is not the solution, he said. It's not the only thing to look for based off of what experience you're expecting. You should really be looking at the combinations of terpenes, flavonoids, and cannabinoids. Leslie said his company's goal is to help consumers recognize how these different components affect them. So they no longer have to look for what's the highest potency THC, he added. They're looking for more complexity from their flowers and their extracts as well. To increase the entourage effect, Chiba Chews adds cannabinoids such as CBN or CBG to formulations, beyond just using THC distillate. The company also uses full-spectrum oil in some of its products. Having a better understanding of what the cannabinoid does for you and conditioning consumers to look for those versus just potency helps retrain expectations of what they're going to get from the flower, the oil, or the edible, he said. Leslie has seen a shift in what consumers want as their tastes become more sophisticated and mature. To cater to that, some products that are made with live rosin include a full terpene profile on the label. So you understand the flavor and the effects from that edible specifically and how you can closely connect that to what the terpene profile is, he added. We're trying to help that process by introducing it into our packaging and the way we display our products so it becomes more normalized for the consumers.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Whew. was a big one.
That was a big
I
one.
need some water.
Salute. Voters up north, Wisconsin, the border, as you always say, will see cannabis questions on their ballot.
Over the border.
Over the border. We'll see cannabis questions on the ballots in November. What's this questions? I just like, why questions? How about just like put it on the ballot for the voters to vote? For medical. Let's start with that, Wisconsin. Questions. Come on, man. We'll just keep on taking your tax money. Thanks. Appreciate you. Florida Cannabis Legalization Initiative filed for 2024 ballot with backings of state's largest medical cannabis companies. But there's also people fighting it, too. I just read today. So there's some Florida non-advocates for cannabis fighting it to go on the ballot for recreational in Florida also. Foolish. Foolish. The hypocrisy of it all, I tell you. Arkansas Supreme Court orders state to put cannabis legalization initiative on the ballot, but votes may not be counted. Can you believe that? Can you believe it? Arkansas. What are you talking about here, man?
Doesn't even make sense.
It's just like, weren't you part of the whole thing about like the last presidency and like being against like there was fake ballots and all this stuff? Come on, man. Hypocrisy and more. Arkansas, let's go. Your people want cannabis. Governor, mayors, stop fighting against it. Your people want it. It's bringing in good tax dollars for that state. It's bringing in good people. It's let people go there to be free, to be able to get cannabis. Make it fucking recreational. Poof. Michigan breaks another cannabis sales record in July. Huge month. 210 million. 210 million.
In a month.
For Michigan. That's crazy. Good for you, Michigan. Good for you. It's just, it's so good. It just is. I mean, it's
I think a few people are smoking marijuana.
A lot.
Just a few.
Yeah. So, I mean, it just goes to show that people want it in their states. Am I happy how much money that the corporations and government are taking from this when people could just grow it themselves? Yes. But it's good to see states at least participating in the cannabis industry, whether you work for it or you buy it. So New York will start accepting dispensary applications, which is great, man. And then I heard they the first 19 cultivators are ready to get up and going. Their licenses have been given and they're ready to go.
Cool.
So that's awesome. So good for New York, but only 19
in the whole state.
In the whole state.
They're going to be a little busy.
Do you think?
Yeah.
2022 cannabis ballot measures. Up to 6 states voting for recreational. You ready? States, Missouri and Amendment 3. Come on, Missouri. Let's do this. Who else here? South Dakota ballot measure. And that governor still, Kristi Noem, is still trying to fight it for even going on the ballot when your state already voted on both rec and med and they passed both and you stopped it. So, man, it just still aggravates me that the votes. Maryland, pretty good. Arkansas, we'll see. North Dakota and Oklahoma all have measures to go on the ballots. So let's do this. Let's get this done, you know? So, preliminary study.
Yep.
Tell me what you found out, Mrs. Weedman.
I don't know. Is COVID even something we talk? I mean, it still comes up pretty much every day, right?
Yeah.
Somehow. Well, this is a study that suggests that active cannabis users had lower rates of ICU admission when hospitalized for COVID. A new study published in the Journal of Cannabis Research found that a small sample of cannabis users had less severe cases of COVID-19 during their hospital stay than non-users. Cannabis users had better outcomes, including a decreased need for ICU admission or mechanical ventilation. The study, however, was very limited, and there is still a need for prospective and observational studies to draw stronger conclusions. The study looked at 2 hospitals in Los Angeles. Out of the 1,831 COVID patients in the study, 69 patients reported active cannabis use, which was just 4% of the total patients. It is important to point out that differences in overall survival were not statistically significant between cannabis users and non-users, according to the study. Here is a breakdown of the patient's individual characteristics. The link between cannabis usage and better COVID outcomes is sensible, the study authors say. The authors also admit that their study was very limited, and any conclusions drawn are only suggestions. The authors' methodology used a retrospective analysis of patient data, which included comparing National Institute of Health's COVID-19 severity scores, the need for supplemental oxygen, intensive care unit admission, mechanical ventilation, length of hospitalization, and in-hospital death for cannabis users and non-cannabis users. Cannabis users had significantly better outcomes compared to non-users, as reflected in lower National Institute of Health scores, shorter hospitalizations, 4 versus 6 days, lower ICU admission rates, 12 versus 31%, and less need for mechanical ventilation, 6 versus 17%. ICU admission was 12 percentage points lower, and intubation tubes were 6 percentage points lower in cannabis users, the study says. The study suggests that chronic cannabis use may have positive effects on COVID-19 outcomes in hospitalized patients. The authors hypothesize that better outcomes could be due to other medicinal properties, including anti-inflammatory effects of some cannabinoids. Cannabis users were more likely to have lower inflammatory marker levels on admission compared to non-users. This effect was sustained during their hospital course, with cannabis users continuing to have lower inflammatory markers compared to non-users, the study says. The cannabis users in this study tended to be younger. 62% were male. The majority was white, and 15% were Black, 4% Asian, and 28% Latinx. 20% of cannabis users were also tobacco smokers, compared to just 4% of overall patients. Consistent with known trends, active cannabis users were overall younger than non-users, it says. However, when adjusting for age, these outcomes remained consistent. The study didn't differentiate between methods of consumption. Given the diverse ways in which cannabis can be introduced into the body, our grouping of inhaled and ingested cannabis should introduce little variability to an already highly variable cohort of cannabis users. Pooling all cannabis users, regardless of administration method, gives our study more power in analysis while minimizing the risk of overfitted data. Doctors specializing in pulmonary disease were the main contributors to this study. And there was a whole battery of pulmonologists and researchers it was a legit study.
Nice.
It's not the first study to look at with cannabinoids and COVID, although it claims to be the first to look at the data from real COVID patients who had been admitted to the hospital. One highly publicized study found that cannabinoids CBGA and CBDA block COVID entry into cells. These cannabinoids, isolated or in hemp extracts, have the potential to prevent as well as treat infection by SARS-CoV-2, the researchers said, first reported by Forbes magazine. A study conducted in 2021 found that cannabinoids helped reduce inflammatory storms in skin tissue models. These inflammatory storms can happen in severe cases of COVID-19. The treatment addition of cannabis extracts helps curb inflammation and prevent fibrosis and lead to disease remission. The study done in Canada was able to look at THC and CBD as well as their combined effect, which happened to be the best efficacy when the cannabinoids worked in concert. So, interesting.
Right. Very interesting.
Yeah.
International news, the world's biggest cannabis scam is totally unraveling.
Ooh.
Boo, boo, boo. Hundreds of thousands of people from around the world are said to have invested in Juicy Fields, a firm that pledged to connect online investors with cannabis farms. But now there's suspicions that it was a Ponzi scheme. And be careful out there, people, when it comes to the cannabis industry, too, because there could be people telling you to invest in this company, and then all of a sudden they got your money and they gone. So The two Lamborghinis were impossible to ignore, printed with the company's logo. The company Juicy Fields had parked them in front of a hotel in Barcelona when the international cannabis industry gathered there for a conference in March. The message was clear. This is where the real money is made. Juicy Fields, a firm originally based in Germany but since moved to Amsterdam earlier this year, promoted itself as a business that would make investors named e-growers rich by putting their savings into legal cannabis plantations. But now Juicy Fields is looking like the biggest cannabis industry scam of all time. Since mid-July, investors have no longer been able to log into their customers' accounts, up to 500,000 investors. That's how many there were at last count, according to Juicy Fields. Could be affected. The potential damage could be somewhere between tens of millions and several billion euros. And this is all coming from Vice magazine. They did the investigation on this. I'm just reading it because I thought it was interesting as hell. Juicy Fields had a large presence in a Spanish-speaking world. Spanish law firm Martinez Bianco is representing 1,400 people who say they have lost money due to Juicy Fields. It used data from crypto analysis platform Etherscan to estimate that more than 5 billion euros, which is 4.2 billion American, passed through Juicy Fields crypto wallets in Spain alone. Damn, that's a lot of money. Martinez Bianco estimates 28,000 people have been affected, with some investors suspected to have lost more than 150,000 American dollars, 180,000 euros. Woo! The Berlin-based company went online in early 2020 with its self-described cannabis crowd-growing platform. Juicy Fields' marketing team used messages app Telegram, small news sites and online forums specializing in cryptocurrencies to spread the news. People would be able to gain financial stakes in cannabis farms by making investments of anything between 50 euros to 180,000 euros. To do this, they had to create a user account through which all transactions would take place. 3 months later, they were told after the medical cannabis was cultivated, harvested, and sold, returns of up to 66% could be reaped. On Juicy Fields' online platform, users from Europe, Africa, Asia, and Latin America could not only watch their plants grow, but also their fortunes. In several Telegram groups, the Juicy Fields community reported profits that the company had paid out to them, simply as a bank transfer or in the form of cryptocurrency. This continued until July 11th this year, when Telegram chat groups filed up with concerned messages from investors who suddenly could no longer access the Juicy Fields accounts. Almost at the same time, Juicy Fields employees had announced a strike over unpaid salaries. Ooh. As disquiet around Juicy Fields grew, the company sponsors of the Berlin Cannabis Fair, Mary Jane, which took place the same week as mid-July, seemed to retreat into silence. Juicy Fields organizers became unreachable. The company's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram channels are now no longer accessible, and on YouTube, all content gradually disappeared. According to the media reports, Juicy Fields may have mimics a Ponzi scheme by using investors' money to pay off other investors in order to generate your four customers' feedback. We know somebody that did that. This helped the company to build a winning image, which is spread vigorously not only with sports cars, but also social media and influencers, online advertising, trade fairs. The buzz overshadowed some voices that cast doubts around Juicy Fields' fantastic profit announcements, yet there were warning signs. Ooh. According to research by the German financial magazine Menza's test, the trial for those behind Juicy Fields led to a Swiss holding companies and members of the German aristocratic family. The Spanish publications El País Financiero found a group of three men with Russian passports was behind Juicy Fields, a story backed by Glantz, the former CEO. The Juicy Fields saga comes not long after Ruja Ingvatova, a German-Bulgarian known as the Crypto Queen, was put on the FBI's list of most wanted fugitives for allegedly relieving investors of $4 billion in cryptocurrency investments. Scam. One coin. Now the Berlin Public Prosecutor's Office is investigating Juicy Grow GmbH and its managing director. According to Menza Test, the German Federal Financial Super Authority has set a penalty payment of $1 million against Juicy Holdings. Ooh, this is like good Juicy Holdings. Germany is set to become one of the largest weed markets in the world after its new government announced plans to legalize recreational cannabis last year. So that's where you're seeing all this stuff. So meanwhile, the cryptic statement has been pushed on Juicy Fields' website, juicyfields.io. In order to register for refunds, it states users should send them a selfie video with their financial ID card. This is tough, which is obvious risk, has their air of being a scam itself. Dun, dun, dun. Be careful out there, everyone. Are you a mooch? Do you know what a mooch is?
I know what a mooch is.
I know what a mooch is,
I've known
too.
a mooch or two in my life. You know a mooch?
I know a couple, 2 tree.
1, 2,
So
3.
is there such thing as a weed moocher?
There could be a weed moocher.
Tell us about it, Ms. Weedman.
Are you a weed moocher?
You know what?
What?
I'm sure I mooched some weed one time or twice in my life. I ain't gonna lie.
But you're not a chronic moocher.
No, because
you give a lot of weed away.
How much weed have I given away in the last last 13 years?
You don't qualify.
Right, but at one point in my life, I probably didn't have any money, and I would bum a joint off for somebody or bum a nug off of somebody to smoke, or always knew somebody that smoked, and I was always at their house because they were the plug, and they always
Right.
looked. Here's the one thing about your plug: if you know where he lives and he likes you, he'll smoke you out. You just go over there and hang out. They're always looking for one person to stay and hang out with them because they're sitting all day just fucking running, gunning, and playing back in the day, playing Sega Genesis and football, Madden all day with them, and you had nothing to do, and you just get them high. So yes, I probably mooched that way, but never just like kept on asking.
You're not just like a flat out.
Right. But
All
I know in my younger years, I probably did once or twice.
Well, here's 3 signs you might not be doing your share on the weed front. Maybe you're a mooch. You might be a taker and not a giver if these things happen. Seeing as recreational cannabis is still largely outlawed in the U.S., it's disheartening to think of the number of people not able to get the high nutrition that they require through the day. But here are the mooches, always ready to partake in the wealth of those more fortunate in the weed department. Your mate has always been known for having the best weed, and he is definitely going to deliver some top-notch weed whenever he comes. But he sure as hell doesn't want you to just sit back and wait for him to always bring the weed. And it's likely there is nothing that makes us feel more disrespected than a weed mooch. The government and weed mooches are without a doubt the 2 most despised bodies in the weed community.
Damn.
Yeah, that's pretty tough.
Damn.
A mooch, broadly speaking, is a person who is always talking, always ready to collect without ever doing the same. A mooch always acts selfishly to make use of the opportunities they are given, and if they are ever confronted about their attitude, they tend to find it very offensive. A mooch is an individual who would be shocked by hearing a no for the first time after hearing 1,000 yeses. There is a high chance that you are a cannabis mooch if all of this sounds familiar to you. Let's talk about some characteristics, though. First, you never purchase weed, but you always seem to be high. This truly is the greatest sign that you're a cannabis mooch. If you're always present in the session, but you always come empty-handed, that is a typical weed mooch behavior. Also, if all you contribute is joint papers, blunt wraps, never any flower, you're definitely a cannabis mooch. In truth, your friends who are always bringing the weed are probably not even going to get mad at you about the amount of their stash you burn. Because after all, smoking weed is more fun with people. But they will silently be annoyed how you have never thought of coming with even a little gram to the session to roll up in respect of the other times that you haven't. Number 2, you have the superpower of appearing whenever people start smoking. How about that? When you began smoking, you were probably working with a smaller budget per week before finding various ways to level up. At that point, you could never afford to buy top quality weed, but one way or another, you were always high. That is because somehow you always had exceptional timing for appearing at a friend's crib when he was lighting a joint. If whenever someone's joint gets lit, you will automatically come through with your weed enthusiasm, you are definitely a weed mooch. And you can evolve from that, my friend. Trust me. 3, you make the weed burn out fast. People who don't purchase their own weed often lack knowledge on the proper way to inhale and the ideal airflow required to safeguard a perfectly pearled paper. As a result of this, you might have sat in on a session, sucking on the tip of a joint like a Capri Sun, eventually leading to an unbalanced burn and a huge waste of great weed. Please stop it. 4, your brain cannot focus when weed is in the air. If you go out in search of opportunities to get some free weed, anytime the smell of inflamed weed enters your nose, you are going to get anxious and distracted. You'll be on edge. It happens because you don't know the next time you might be able to smoke weed again. So you got to find it. You got to seize the day. You got to seize the opportunity. Where's the weed? 5, but not the least. 5th, but not the least. That doesn't even make sense. Okay, well, let's just go with 5th. The 5th reason. You will share a joint with anyone that will let you. Finally, one of the biggest weed mooch moves is that you will accept an invitation to smoke from literally anybody that will offer you a puff. You would not even care if their hygiene or their health records were up to standard. Neither do you care about the type of weed that's in the joint, how it was grown, where it came from. None of it is your concern. You just want to smoke. A weed mooch does not care about weed that ticks all the boxes. They don't even know the boxes. They only care about what's available now and if they can get some. Bottom line, although cannabis does grow on trees, it's not cheap to grow or straight up purchase from your local weed shop. We get that. So the stoner generosity of your friend can get somewhat expensive. Our main point, don't be a mooch. It's a terrible way to have a part in a community built on sharing. Even though you may not be able to afford to smoke as frequently as you might like, and you know friends will always welcome you with open arms to burn up with them, at least try to pull up with a surprise bag here and there to show your appreciation. It says a lot.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I did it a few times.
I never buy any weed. I'm a mooch.
You're a fucking mooch.
But I'm not an opportunist. Although when I do smell it, I do kind of want to know where the smell's coming from.
Listen, if we didn't home grow it, I'm sure you would go to the dispensary and buy
I'm very
some.
worried when a joint's burning and nobody's smoking it. I'm like, oh, they're wasting the weed. So I'm not a 5 of 5 kind of mooch.
No.
I just have Mr. Weedman in my life, so there's always weed. I never have to buy it.
Never. There's always weed in this house. Always. Probably in a lot of places that you look to, there's weed. You turn and it's
the kitchen
there.
counter, the kitchen shelf, kitchen table,
the basement,
the bathroom, bedside table, the basement.
There's both sides of the bedside tables. There's my pen and your pen on either side.
My purse.
Yeah, you got purse, pen.
Your armrest.
You got mints. You got a little bit of everything. So if people really wanted a mooch, they know now where to go when they come over. Hip hop artist Vic Menza launches his own cannabis brand, and his line is, "Before I ever sold a wrap, I sold an eighth." A good friend of the show, good friend of ours, Metro Black, helped actually do his launch party here in Illinois, which was totally dope. I saw some pictures he posted. It was actually cool, to set up and everything. So he started a brand, Vic Menza, called 93 Boys. An equity-focused venture, black-owned business. 93 Boys is the first black-owned and led adult-use cannabis company in the state of Illinois. Vic assures, we were actually the first black-owned brand in Illinois stores when we dropped. No one can point to a black-owned brand business in Illinois that was in the stores before us. That means that it's at its core, the company will focus on reinvestment in the communities and individuals that have been historically and disproportionately affected by outdated laws, prejudices, and assumptions regarding cannabis consumption. Ultimately, the brand seeks to elevate the undeserved while also lifting spirits via the headiest product available in the state. Among community-based initiatives the brand will be undertaking is a partnership with Books Before Bars, a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing books to undeserved Illinois prison libraries, providing inmates with potentially transformative resources. Good for them. At the core of the ethos of the 93 Boys is a socially minded spirit. Portions of all of our proceeds going to give back to the community. The first program we're starting with is called Books Before Bars, sending a large number of books into the Cook County Jail, Vic says. As an industry, I believe the tax revenue generated from cannabis should be used as reparations to the communities most impacted by the war on drugs, like literal cash payment, reparations, subsidized housing, education, and everything. In the pursuit to become a company focused on holistic good, 93 Boys have also joined the forces with Aeroponic Cannabis, which is actually a rise cultivator, and which I think makes some of the best cannabis in the state of Illinois, an environmentally friendly product from plant to person. As a company representative expounds, aeroponics is a cultivation method to grow products without the use of soil or aggregate medium. The product line includes flower, pre-rolls, and strain-specific vape cartridges encompassing a range of different options from sativa to indica to custom hybrid blends. Good for Vic. I'm glad he's supporting the community with his brand. I think it's great. And just giving back to Chicago and the people of Chicago. So that's awesome. Good for you. And Metro, great party I saw you throw out there, brother. You are a marketing genius. You also had the Zenko at the party, too.
Yeah.
They were throwing
I saw,
straws out.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, so good for them. Good for 93 boys. Appreciate you being in town. Good luck. Can't wait to try your weed. And dun dun dun. That's the end of the show.
I thought you were gonna. And I thought you had like an announcement. I didn't know what you were doing.
We already said the announcement. The new podcast we're doing.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about that. So, and take a listen to that. It'll be coming out probably Friday, or if not, next Monday. You also see that on YouTube. Also, it's all part of the Weedman 420 Chronicles. So you'll be able to see it on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to see it on all of the social media platforms. It'll just say intro episode, and then we're going to start that as episode 1. We're still at 112 now, so there'll be the Weedman 420 Chronicles. So don't get confused. If you do, just DM us or email us on all of our handles, which you can find on 8decades.com, which is dope. So make sure you check it out. You'll see everything on there. All of our social media handles, our emails, our bios, our history, our story, products, everything. 8decades.com. Check it out, everyone out there in the world. We appreciate you listening. Thank you very much. We love you all. Be kind to one another. Be a good human being. As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff puffing away.
Puff puff pass.